Yeah, I'm David Robinson, the father of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. We're out here to do a candlelight visual on behalf of my son, and also to bring light into other families who are going through similar situations. So thank you. I'm thanking everybody who's out here to support. We need to stand in solidarity to bring attention to this case and to make a statement.
Oh, I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you.
When the lights and camera turn off, I will be here. When the interest and conversation fade, I will be here. When there's no one around, a father will do anything it takes to be there for his son, to protect his family.
David.
Where's everybody?
9 painful months.
Without these special people behind me, I wouldn't have a search. Hello, everyone. David Robinson here. I'm the father of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. Thanks so much for joining me this evening to do this live stream. I am, again, the father of geologist Daniel Robinson. My son, Daniel Robinson, went missing on June 23rd of 2021. He's a geologist, graduated from the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. Graduated with honors, decided to take his career, his life out into Arizona, where he lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a while, and then moved over to Tempe, Arizona. He also started his first job in life with a company called Matrix New World, also called Matrix Southwest Groundwater, engineering company that hires people like himself, geologists, to help assess groundwater, and things like that. South Arizona being a desert state is very important to have people like my son, companies like my son, the company that my son worked for, to do the kind of work that my son was doing. On June 23rd, 2021, he was doing just that, doing the job that he loved, working in the field of geology. They hired him on as also called a hydrogeologist, where he go out into various well sites to check on the volume of wells in the areas, to be able to determine if these groundwaters can support communities. And by law, these communities that are being built have to be supported by groundwater. Those groundwaters have to produce at least 100 years of water, and also be able to recharge itself after the 100 years. That's when the science of geology and everything else come along with that. But again, my son working on June 23rd, 2021, had been assigned to 2 well sites. He went to one well site where he was asked went there to, I guess, gather some logs and information about a well at one location that was connected underground since to another location out on Sun Valley Parkway. That's northwest of the area where the first well site was located. But nevertheless, he went out into that area to meet a one person named Ken Elliott, who works for a company called Weber Waterworks. That was the first time meeting. He met him on the shoulder of Sun Valley Parkway and Cactus Road. Cactus Road is actually a trail, and on that roadway, according to Ken, is where the rest of the remainder of the story about what happened to my son started. According to Ken, they spoke at that shoulder for a couple minutes, where my son followed him into that desert, 1 mile west, 2 miles north, to get to a well site that they will be working at. They arrived at the well site around 9 o'clock that morning. Once at the well site, according to Ken, 15 minutes later, after a conversation about the weather, my son waved at him, hopped in his vehicle, drove off to never be seen again. Almost 30 days later, his vehicle showed up in a ravine about 3.5 miles away from that well site, farther into that desert, in a remote part of the desert, lying in a 20-foot ravine on his passenger side. Everything allegedly on my son's body, from his underwear down to socks, was lying 3 feet away from the vehicle in the pile. All his personal effects was found with the vehicle, IDs and things inside the pants pocket of in that pile where the pants was turned inside out. The work computer, etc. Like I said, I was out there for since my son went missing. 3 days after he went missing, I was out in Arizona to search for my son, to fight for him. Been out there since that point, conducting my own desert searches, my own investigation, on city searches, you name it. And we got to this point. So it's a lot to the story. If you all have not know, those who probably just hearing about Daniel's story, I could talk a lot about that as well. I can open up a little small Q&A for questions about that. But what I came tonight is talk really quick is to give some great news. Actually, I want to start off on that point, because this whole journey fighting for my son has put me in a different place. When I say me personally, I'm talking myself personally, and also with my family too. We put them in different place as well. What I'm saying is, I would never think of a million years that my son would go missing. I think no family, no one would ever think that it would hit home. I didn't know a lot about missing American cases. The far as I knew, sometimes we'll see a story here and there, once or twice on local news where they say someone went missing. It always sounds like an isolated case where there's probably one person or even possibly a second person. But we have over 600,000 Americans go missing every year, 3,000 Americans every day in this country. Over 2,000 of them are children. And then of all missing American cases, 40% of all cases are people of color. And Black Americans, we only make 14% of the population. We don't talk about the indigenous populations as well, what's happened on the reservation with the women and children. So a lot of stuff you end up learning along the way. When you have a missing loved one, you kind of join a club that nobody actually asked to join, family that no one asked to join. We have many families I have met along the way, hearing their stories, caring about what's happening in their lives, what happening to their family. So try to every opportunity we can. I ask you all to do the same. Share a missing American story, because there's plenty out there. Again, over 600,000 Americans missing. You got plenty to choose from. It can mean the difference between finding a person or not by sharing that story. So can't rely on news networks, can't rely on the local news. It took me 2 weeks just to get Daniel's story on local channel. It took me 3 months to get it on a national level. So it took a lot of hard work just to do that. and a lot of families don't get the opportunity. So again, we're relying on people like yourself to share stories. So to kind of go towards what I want to show you tonight, or talk about tonight actually, is that of course being out there in the desert, working for Daniel, talking to those families, you know, trying to get answers, trying to get cell phone pings. You all know that with the cell phone ping part of Daniel's case, and also hearing other family story, pushed me to do what I need to do or what I could do to try to help bring some relief for families. You know, we talked to senators in Arizona. They tried to come up with something to help get some data. They should set up a meeting where I was able to join and be a part of the meeting with telecommunication companies. Learn a great deal with that. You know, the process of what senators in that state were trying to do to get something going. I guess craft a bill that can help get those type answers for families. That failed. That failed also with the fact that you know, the telecommunications stonewall. You know, these big corporations have their privacy policies and all these things going on. But for me, it was always never a. I don't have the luxury of just walking away or just saying, well, we just couldn't get it done, or whatever the case may be. For me, it's a life and death situation with my son currently missing. It's a life death situation where I hear other families seeking the same thing. So I had to sit down and learn how to do something on my own and try to put something together to try to bring some relief for families. And that is to write my own bill, write some legislation that would help as many families as I could in that area. So, and definitely for my son, you know, that's number one for me. He's my first priority. And so that's the way the Daniel Robinson Law was birthed, based on that situation that's happened in my son's case. That's the way I was able to put that together. But I wrote the legislation to push it in the U.S. Congress, because I told those telecommunication companies, T-Mobile, Sprint to be exact, that I would be coming through their back door. And that back door was to run for U.S. Congress to get those cell phone ping data, to push this legislation that I was planning at that time to start trying to write. And get some answers, get the answers that we all need, that families need. So my efforts to find my son, my efforts to try to help as many families as I can, translated over to running for U.S. Congress and to push a bill. The Daniel Robinson Law, eventually pushed that bill to take it to Congress with me to try to get it pushed in the United States Congress. But I lost my election in 2024. I ran in 2024 against a 24-year incumbent. His name is Representative Joe Wilson of South Carolina. Had 41% of the vote. Could have done a lot better, but you know, just like you all know that help every one of you that helped me in this endeavor to find my son. I rely heavily on everything I do on grassroots stuff. Donations, meaning I had GoFundMe just to fund everything I did for those 50 weeks of desert searches. For instance, there's 40 some weeks of city searches and flyer distributions and so on, investigating and all this kind of stuff. Is everything came from small donations. So I relied the same thing here on running for Congress, and we don't have the opportunity to get out as much as, for instance, Joe Wilson, who have a lot of PAC money where they give out millions of dollars, so he have plenty of space to get out where he wants to. But we did good. 41% did very well, but I'm running again to get this legislation pushed and get it going to try to make sure I get the Congress to get that push as well. But what I'm coming tonight is to tell you that I also rewrote the part of that legislation to fit South Carolina's law, and also I did a portion to fit Arizona's law. And then I was trying, because Louisiana a little tricky, a little different, but my goal is to do Louisiana the same way. But the one in South Carolina, I have a senator here who sponsored it for me. Met him on the campaign trail in 2024. He won his election. Really good friend, and he pushed this legislation through, pushing it through. And so I come today to talk about that, and that is the Daniel Robinson Law coming to South Carolina. Well, I need to. My goal is, and it's the last notice. I feel really shocked about. I had a bipartisan town hall that I do every week here in South Carolina. You know, actually every week online. It's a virtual town hall, bipartisan town hall. and I got the notification from the senator an hour before I was going on air, so I didn't get an opportunity to kind of blast it out. So this was kind of last minute. I talked to one family already. I would know an answer if they can join me on Monday, and they're gonna reach out to some other families. But I need all the families I can to come along with me on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, to testify about Daniel's law. It's called Help Find Missing Americans Act, to push this legislation through the Senate here in South Carolina, and just talk about the need for this legislation. So with those families, I'm going to tell you right now, I need any family, if you can make it there to South Carolina, make it here to South Carolina from any state, but definitely if you're here in South Carolina, I want to try to get as many families as I can to join me on Wednesday morning at 9:00 p.m. at South Carolina State House. I really need all the voices I can of families support, even some of the advocacy groups. If you're the Black and Missing Foundation or the Gabby Tito Foundation, some of you all, everyone, and I'm going to be talking about this all weekend. I'm going to talk about it come Monday, all the way up until I can get as many people as I can to come to the Senate with me to push for this legislation. But I want to get everybody to get in contact with me, and I can tell you more about the bill, how it works, and then that way, when you come testify, how that could help you in your missing American case, your loved one's case. So let me see if I can put some information how you can reach out to me, make it easier. It's right here. You can contact me at the number below on the screen here, 803-200-7994. You can email please help find Daniel at yahoo.com. And also information, of course, I have a website, but call me on that number, the cell phone number. I'll be especially looking out for those specific calls as well. Of course, that number is used a lot for things, but I really need as many families as I can to join me on Wednesday at 9:00 p.m. This coming Wednesday at 9:00 p.m. I know it's late notice, like I said. I was saying it's late notice for me as well. But I'm going to be there. I have to be there to make sure we can try to do everything we can to push this bill through and get it on the floor for a vote. And so I really need your help. I need everyone to talk about it. I need everyone to encourage people to come if they can. Do you know someone in South Carolina have a missing loved one? They happen to be here in South Carolina, to reach out to me. Those who may say, hey, I'm just happening to be coming to South Carolina, for instance, and I want to testify, reach out to me. Let me know, because I have to get a list of families to give to the senator and let them know who all will be there. So anyway, that's one of the main things I want to talk about tonight. And I'm really proud of that because, like I said, it has been filed in South Carolina. Now we're into another era of this bill. And so I'm really, really thrilled to see this bill get through because it's really important for my state. It'll be important for every state. Again, I have a primary June 9th, but I will be pushing that along. And I'm claiming in faith that I'm going to win this November 3rd. I'm going to get past the primary, then I'm going to win November 3rd and take those to U.S. Congress with me as well. So I'm looking for that. Anyway, I just want to go tell you all that, and that's one of the main purposes of this live stream tonight, but also wanted to answer a few questions before I jump off, and hopefully I'll say this every time. I'm not going to be on long. I'm trying to get off really quick, and then next thing I'm on here 2 or 3 hours, but I'm going to really, really push hard to stay on here short tonight. But I do want to open up any kind of questions that some may have, don't know anything about Daniel case, or just have something you want to say question-wise, that I can answer some questions really quick. So if you do have questions, especially if you're on Instagram, and also any other platforms, what I'll be looking for to make it easier for me is if you put the word question before your question, the word question itself before your question, a capital letter Q before your question, or a question mark before your question. So when I'm coming down the comment section really quick, I can identify the questions a lot easier. Help me identify what is question is, what is not, what is comment. So if I feel like I'm running out of time, a lot of that I want to be online. A lot of times I kind of rush down I try to read every comment that I can, but I try to get down to the questions as fast as possible so I can answer these questions before I end up jumping off the live stream. So But to start off, without the questions, I'm going to say thank you to everyone who joined in. Keisha, thanks so much. And thank you so much for being the moderator, being here tonight for this live stream. Also, Don, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. Yes, definitely going to stay strong. I really appreciate you. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Hello to you. Also, Tracy, thanks so much for being here. Hello to you as well. And thanks so much coming off the YouTube side. So I really appreciate you being here. Aaron, thanks so much for being here. I'm from Phoenix. I can help. I can help answer any questions, and a PI now in Texas. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. And let's see who else I have here. Okay, good. Don again. Thanks so much for being here. Say yes, we do. Good point. That is the point. Thank you so much for being here. I do have a comment though, Don. I'm sure this is directly for here. He says, David, whatever happened to him happened 11 miles away from where his car was found. That's a huge area to cover. Not to mention very people, not to mention the very people who saw him, who made it unclear that what that morning. You have to keep going. Yes, definitely had to keep going. With that 11 additional miles, yes, that was part of the grid that we created in my searches to you all saw the set the map that I had to kind of show you the areas that we searched, and it was based on at the 11 additional miles after the vehicle showed up on in July. So definitely been based on those type things. So right now I am just relying on a lot of that, and also relying on some tips that could be coming in. So when it comes to 11 additional miles of that vehicle, and like you said, the desert is very intimidating. So if you start off, like you said, from let's say just the crime scene where the vehicle showed up, you can turn any direction, north, south, east, or west, or anywhere in between, and then go in a straight line. As you get further away from that vehicle, that distance between each space, it widens out, right? So you can imagine, and within that 11-mile radius going outward, you can imagine how much ground you have to cover just to search, especially with what we have been doing a lot of line searches and hasty searches where people's actually on the ground looking. There's a difference when you like law enforcement will say, hey, I put a drone in the air, or I put a helicopter in the air. You're not going to see a person lying on the ground with a helicopter if they're under a bush, for instance, or something, right? And so it was very important for what the work that we have done. That's the reason why we was able to recover human remains out there to bring closure for other families based on actually being on the ground looking. And when I say people's out there looking, they was looking for my son as hard as I would look for my own son. And that's caring from everyone. So I really appreciate everyone that came out there, because that's exactly what they did, with a lot of love out there in that desert with me to actually look on the ground. So I do have a question here, and just like I am Zodiac Cancer, thanks so much for being here. First of all, if you have a question, please put the word question there before your question, a question mark before your question, or a capital letter Q. That helped me. So you have a question here. It says, did you or your family members ever find out who or someone went inside Daniel's apartment and ransacked and searching for on his personal computer? Also, have you spoke to the apartment management? The apartment management was very hard to deal with. They was hiding behind a lot of liability stuff. They wouldn't even let law enforcement, wouldn't let the Buckeye Police Department go into Daniel's apartment without an escort, right? They had to have management there, make sure law enforcement didn't touch anything, those types, because the leases in Daniel's name. As a family member, they gave us a very hard time. We couldn't even get in Daniel's apartment. Buckeye Police Department was able to get in at first. We was on the 3-way call again, and they said, well, first it was trying to be very hard not to let anybody go in. But after we were talking, they said, well, definitely family can't go in, but Okay, we'll let law enforcement come in with the escort, like I said. So they was in there to take some pictures. The only thing they was allowed to do was take some pictures and walk out. Um, and then right after, once we were able to get some access to the apartment, my private investigator was the second person to go in there. And that's when I got a lot of the information about that computer. Things that look kind of well, I'll take that back. From my private investigator, I got a lot about the ransack of his apartment with the drawers and the closet being torn down, and like someone was looking for something from my investigator's point of view. What ended up happening, because I couldn't get law enforcement to act on that, I had to act on my own. So I set up a meeting with Mayor Wood of Tempe, Arizona, along with the chief of police, both chiefs, Chief Anderson and Glover at the time. I set up a meeting with them, the A team. We all went to meet with them to discuss what my investigator found, and the request was for them to do forensics on everything electronic wise in Dane's apartment that we have in our custody. And so in my custody, so was able to get that arrangement with them. They said, hey, Mr. Rouse, okay, we would do it. We'll do it as a favor to you. But then they also wanted to include the Buckeye Police Department because they have an investigation, right? They say on Dane's case. So they have to share whatever they find with the Buckeye Police Department, which I was really, I'll be honest with you, I don't trust the Buckeye Police Department as far as I could see my own hand. So at the time, I didn't like that, but that is police work. They had to do that. And so, so yes, they did go through Daniel's computer, home computer, all the phones that we found out there in the desert, Daniel's cell phone, his PlayStation stuff, because Daniel's a heavy gamer as well. He has some other little devices that was part of this. So they was able to go through that, and that's what part of that report is what came back. And some other things came back as well, but that's one thing that stood out when it comes to someone being in Dane's apartment after he went missing. And so it was a date close to the day he went missing. So I still don't put that exact date out, but it was after Daniel went missing on 23rd. So that goes along line with what my private investigator had found. Someone appeared to have been looking for something based on what my investigator saw. So if you pair those two things together, you could say, because at the first time when my investigator saw those things, he couldn't. The argument was we couldn't say that Daniel wasn't the one looking for something in his own place because he was because the place was ramshacked. There was his bedroom area, not the place, not the whole apartment, just his bedroom, and so with that going on, we couldn't say it was Daniel was looking for something, or something happened after Daniel went missing. We couldn't tell. Of course, my private investigator looked for forced entry, couldn't find any. He didn't see any signs of forced entry. So even if someone have gone in and ransacked, they must have had a key or something. So that's what made it say, hey, well, it could have been Daniel himself before he went to work that morning, looking for something and has left this room that way. Now, but when we got the report back that someone's in there after they went missing, then you put those two together, then it sounded like something totally different. Then we had to ask the question, like, who had a key to his apartment? But then that's why everyone's asking, where was his key on that crime scene? That's one of the things I haven't really got a full answer on when it comes to, was his keys actually there, as law enforcement would say. And I think they said something about an ashtray. His keys was in an ashtray. And what they say is car keys, but they didn't say the house keys. So I don't know the Dane's car keys, the house keys are together. But one thing is a key fob is what that vehicle used. It was a push button start. So I know for me personally, I never really ever. There's only some occasions where I have a pair of shorts on or something, and my key fob slide out my pocket between the seats, and I pull it out of there, and I'll feel like put in my pocket right then. I might throw it in a cup holder or something until I'm about to get out the car. That's rare. So I couldn't see the type of pants that Daniel's wearing. Why would he have his key fob or his keys sitting in the ashtray or whatever they're saying? So there's a lot of questions I have with that. But to answer your question, Yeah, we do have some evidence of someone there after he went missing, looking through his personal computer, doing searches and things like that. And as in his apartment ransacked, yes, that was also the clue. But I want to say something you guys probably saw on Discover ID, missing, I think the name of it is. And I always talk about it in the past. It hurt my feelings when I first saw it, which was very great that they did Discover ID do this, and they still planning because I'm telling you, I'm grateful for what they have done because even internationally, people watch it and they know about Daniel's story because of it. Only part I didn't like is because they interviewed Daniel's mother and his brother, and I never take away from them other than the fact that they haven't been a part of the investigation. They didn't know anything was going on, but they used them in an interview, and when they were saying things like, his mother being emotional, was talking about Daniel's. It make it appear that he had something going on emotionally or mentally because his place was how should you put it, um, reflective to what could have been going on in his head. And so when Discover ID put that together, pieced together, they put it as his whole apartment was a disarray. He had dirty dishes in the sink, and the trash was falling out of the trash can, and all. I mean, it was really bad. And it made me angry because no one, his family, his mother, and his siblings hadn't been in the apartment. I've been in the apartment, and after my investigator, and I've took the pictures. I got the pictures from the investigator. I got pictures from my from the police department, and I had to start showing those things online to say, hey, look, Daniel was not. It wasn't that. The dishes wasn't in the sink, and there was no trash hanging over, and all the stuff. It was only thing that was ramshacked was that bedroom. The only thing, and that was only because somebody was looking for something. So it has nothing to do with Daniel's state of mind, and the place was torn up and like he was going through something. No, that was some exaggerated, made up stuff. So I just had to put that out there too as well. So if you guys still seeing that out there somewhere, just know that that part of everything else is very great. I really enjoyed, like I said, what they have done. Don't take away, but that one little part. Every time I hear about it or see it, I don't want people to get the misconception that somehow Daniel was going through some mental breakdown or something and tore up his place and wasn't washing his dishes and all kind of crazy stuff. No. Um, I have a question here without the question mark. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it, Robert, for being here. First of all, um, any word on that paint on your son's Bronco? Actually, Jeep Renegade, but and no, that was really a very disappointing area of evidence to me that the Buckeye Police Department slipped on. When I say Buckeye Police Department, because it's been back and forth with funding and things like that. I've been going back and forth with trying to get my own testing done and things like that. But as I was getting things set up that way, I've been learning a lot about chain of custodies and I got a lot of advice from my attorney and all kind of things when it comes to handling. And it's sad to be a family member trying to learn how to handle evidence, right? And it should always been I should never had those evidence in my custody, and so the Buckeye Police Department haven't done their job. And when on April the 10th last year, when I had a meeting with them, that was one of the promises to get those things forensically tested, do everything the proper way they should have done the first time. We had Detective Adams give me that word of that, and they haven't done it yet. I can tell you that off the rip. Now that they got everything, so when it comes to that red transfer paint, I can almost guarantee they haven't done anything to find out where that red transfer paint came from, and so they put me in a position. When the way I look at it, and I'll say it, and I had to say it this way. I fought for over almost 4 years. And last year was the 50th, believe it or not, 50th search out there. And it was very tough with funding, to even do that search. So I had Gabby Tito's father, Joseph, he came with me on that search. And that helped with funding somewhat and he knew that we talked about it before he came out. He didn't want to make it about Gabby. And, we had that conversation. But, we knew that once anybody get wind that he's coming out there, they're gonna make it. The news people come running, things like that. So but it helped me in certain aspects with funding, right? And so I was able to hold that search. But what I'm saying is, I feel that the Buckeye Police Department know that I was. That's why I ended up back in South Carolina. You guys probably remember when I first got to Arizona. My first acts on my GoFundMe started off with keeping my boots on the ground. Can y'all help me keep my boots on the ground? Then I started my search, and then it was helping me keep my search going. And so it wasn't gonna last forever. You know what I'm saying? They know that they got budget. They get budgets every year from their city manager, how much they budget they get for the police department. So they always got money in the police department, right? But me, they can ride me out. I bring a lot of noise, bring a lot of attention to Buckeye Police Department, news organizations coming out asking these questions about Daniel, and they finding themselves making their whole life all about Daniel, and they was riding me out the way I took it because they know fun is not everlasting, and so and that's what happened. That's what happens because once I left that ground in Arizona, they really stopped doing work. And so, but I thought I was going to get a second chance with Detective Adams. That's why I was very happy, and also was able to get that meeting on April the 9th and 10th last year, and with those promises. And again, now that I was able to give them everything that I had left, I have nothing else to leverage in a sense against the Buckeye Police Department, but thinking this was going to be a reset and there's going to be finally I can have something good to say about the Buckeye Police Department, and then they let me down so far, right? So it's hard. So that's where we at on that right now. The word on that paint, nothing negative. Anything on the forensic stuff, negative, except for the fact that Detective Adam told me he sprayed the clothing because one of my arguments was, first of all, we don't recognize the clothing. My daughter see my son all the time. She was living in Phoenix at the time we went missing, and she's almost see him like almost every day, and they only recognize him clothing. They trying to force us to say, no, that's your son's clothing. Like they shoving it down our throat, saying they're telling us something they don't know. They tell us that is your son's clothing, basically, without even testing it and all that. So, like they saw him wearing it all the time around Arizona or something. And so that was one of the arguments. Hey, look, I don't believe that's my son's clothing. The other part is Detective Biffin at the time, we didn't see with their eyes any blood on the clothing. I don't care what your eyes can see, unless you're a Superman with X-ray vision. I don't care about that. And let's get these clothing tested for blood and things like that. And so he finally, when they got the stuff in custody last year, we had to do a change of custody. That was one of the promises. And what he ended up doing, instead of doing that DNA, you testing DNA and stuff, he said he sprayed it with some kind of chemical, almost like luminous or whatever the name of it. He says not that, it's something else they use it so it won't destroy DNA. And he said, oh, we didn't find any blood on clothes. That's it. That's the extent of whatever they said he was doing. So that's very disappointing to the point. No DNA stuff going on. They're waiting that part out. So I'm sure they can say, oh, well, DNA degrade at the time, or can't do nothing, or whatever the case they can say. Just like when they did the sample at the vehicle. If you guys remember that, they swapped the steering wheel, the shifter, the door handle under my my request because we was in a meeting. And I wasn't leaving that meeting. I said, y'all gonna do some kind of forensics because Detective Biffin, I gotta record myself, him telling me how he didn't see no reason to do any forensics at the scene. And so I demanded that fingerprinting what I asked for because I didn't know what to ask for. But then, like I said, doing the steel wheel swabbing, steel wheel shifting, and door handle. They say instead of all the airbags, the airbags hit your face, DNA. Instead of doing the work the right way, they did that. I guess to shut my mouth improperly. But then when they did it, they didn't compare it to nothing. In other words, they haven't. When you swab DNA, you got to have something to compare it to see if it belongs to the person that's compared to this person's DNA. They didn't ask for anything, didn't look for nothing. I had Dane's apartment at the time, paying rent, and until I couldn't afford it any longer, and start putting things in storage. They knew the stuff because I even talked to them. Hey, y'all need to go in this apartment. We think somebody evidence showed somebody been in Dane's apartment after he went missing. Buckeye Police Department didn't do anything. They didn't want to come look at Dane's apartment, anything, investigate any of that. So eventually, ran out of money to get his things in storage where I can afford it. I started from a big storage and then up to an even smaller store. I had to let some things go. But what I'm saying is they had plenty of opportunity in that whole year. They waited almost 2 years later after they told me to watch this Q&A, you guys. They watched what I do on here. And when I told people, hey, I had to move these things out, get it in storage, and then they come to me when I got the point of getting into a smaller storage and say, oh, yeah, by the way, you have a razor that belongs to Daniel, is what Detective Biffin was asking me. So we can have something to compare to this, the swabbing that they get off the steel wheel shifter. And that really made me mad because they waited till I dismantled Daniel's apartment. Like I was gonna walk around with a razor, one of his razors around in my pockets or something, I mean, it was really crazy. And so what I'm saying is they have nothing to compare it to. So I'm wondering, like I asked him the other day about that, and he said, oh yeah, I think he tried to insinuate like they did something with it. I'm saying, oh great, where you get this from and this and that. Then he kind of backtracked and then started blaming some other woman and in the department and all some type of game they got going on with that part. But what I'm saying is it's a lot when it comes to the disappointment with that. So I'm working on this stuff, you guys. I'm telling you, that's why it's important. I'm a person who's a go-getter. I'm a person who don't quit, especially with this is my son. My family, so nobody mess with my family. The other part is, I talk to families and I know what's going on with these families, and I feel my heart breaks when I hear what other families have to go through. That's why I'm pushing so hard with this Daniel Robinson law. Again, this is important. I mean, and I see some other laws as well. Like for instance, I have a friend of mine, Louisiana, want me to push here for South Carolina and all other states too. The clear alert that's between people who's too old to be on the too young to be on the silver alert and too old to be on the amber alert. So the clear alert is right there in between those. And so I'll be pushing that as well. So and they got it right now in Texas, but it's another state as well. But I know Texas where it was birthed at, where it started from, but every state have their infrastructure already set up for it. So why not, right? And so and it don't cost anything to have this alert. So what I'm saying is it's things like that. And the reason why I'm running for office, I didn't go in life and say I'm gonna run for office. I'm a computer engineer major. Like my children are scientists. And what put me here in this position is what we talk about right now. This platform I'm doing right now, Wars for the Missing, and Please Help Find Daniel, and all the stuff can't push me to run for U.S. Congress. And that's the reason why I'm running for office. Starting off, the reason why that got me into this race in the first place. Of course, I got other reasons too, because I'm a constituent person, just like everyone who have issues in life with the representatives that represent us and things like that. It's things that happen in our own state and things. That's another story. But a lot of times we have those issues and we're not going to do anything about it. We talk about to the TV and each other. But sometimes things like this can push you in a position to even fight for that too. So what I'm saying is I initially decided to run because of Daniel's law, what's happening with families, looking for cell phone pings, looking for these answers really quick, law enforcement being handicapped without the tools they can use to find missing Americans. And who's the better person to do it? Me. I'm a retired military guy. I'm ready to come back to do something, serve the country again. So this is the way I'm doing it. And like I said, my son, my priority. I have a question here again from I Am Zodiac Cancer. Thanks so much. What was the real reason of them to not tell you that your son's Jeep was found in that ravine? I believe something must happen in those hours of Daniel missing. They need to come clean. I also felt like it was a cover up in the first place. There's a lot of things I feel is a cover up when it comes to Buckeye Police Department. We already know the crime statistics. Chief Hall at the time got suspended for, and it is amazing how corrupt he is, in my opinion. And they kept him. He was suspended. The chief, I think the assistant chief at the time, was forced to resign. He also ended up getting in trouble again, Chief Hall, for business dealings outside of his role as chief of police. Got in trouble for that, and they still kept him. Instead of getting rid of him at one point, they made him assistant, I think, city manager or some elevated position to get him out of chief of police. Then Chief Sanders came up for a little bit. Then he came back to being chief again before, so I guess he can get his pension. and now he's gone. I mean, it's a lot of corruption there. So when they lie about crime statistics and falsifying documents, it's easy for things like that to happen with this department. And so those are things I had to learn and wonder why they act the way they do and some things they have done. In my son's case, we have glorified FBI agents in Phoenix field office out there right now because you saw how they handle Daniel's case and how they handle some other things, but definitely the cover up part, it seems so real because, like you said here, I am Zodiac Cancer. The rancher told me him and his wife came to my hotel and they told me their version of everything of the events. When he noticed that him and the other gentleman noticed that this vehicle was the vehicle they was looking for. They heard on the local news. That was based on his wife. He told his wife some vehicles out there, and she said, "Hey, that sounded like the vehicle they were looking for." To that effect, and so he called the Buckeye Police Department. He gave them the tag number, and they said, "Yes, that's the vehicle they're looking for." And so once they made it to the scene, almost 2 hours or so later, he said the first thing they said out of their mouth was, "Hey, whatever you do, don't alert the family and don't alert the media that this vehicle's been found." Why? I don't know. And he thought that was very strange and hard and not right. He said, "Hey, look, I got a daughter. I have a young daughter, and I don't want to say the words he said, but someone telling me, somebody tell someone not tell me that something belonged to my child. Don't say anything about it, basically." And so he was really upset about that part, and he said he was going to try to get in contact with me at that moment, but he ended up not doing so. But he tried. I can tell you that the rancher tried to reach out to me quite a bit, and it's weird how the way he was able to get in contact with me. He called my state of South Carolina here. Her name is Judy Gaston. She's a reporter here locally. He knew that I was on the news at one point, so he was kind of calling news organizations, and so they was able, because of her, she was able to give him my information, direct information to. Well, she called me to give me his information, so that's how I was able to get in contact with the rancher to get some pictures from him. This after the fact, though. After the fact that he was talking to me about this whole situation. So, so the thing is, what I'm saying is, yes, there's a lot going on with that Buckeye Police Department when it comes to that ravine. Of course, we know 2 days prior to that, the rancher said wasn't there for 2 days. First of all, 2 days prior to that, we also know about that vehicle disappearing on the side of the road that favors or description was like Dan's vehicle. I mean, I've seen a picture. The picture was really blurry, so you can't really tell. But my daughter felt like it was Dan's vehicle because of the color, the way the shape of the vehicle was. The vehicle there wasn't a crisp picture. So, but from her just looking at it, say, yeah, that can very much be his vehicle. But somehow the Buckeye Police Department, when they found out I was actually coming up there from Phoenix to Buckeye to go look at the vehicle itself, it disappeared. I mean, in my movement, it was there before I left Phoenix. But when I grabbed my daughter and I called Detective Biffle and said I was headed up that way, and it takes me 40 minutes to get there. I'm on the way heading up towards that way. Can you send a cruiser? Make a long story. He said first he was like, "Oh, that's not your son's vehicle." He sent the cruiser out there. He said he was, and the gentleman who who gave me the picture, who saw the vehicle with his own eyes, went out to check because I told him I was on the way up there as well. He called me back and said the vehicle was removed. Somebody moved it before I can get there. And I called Detective Biffin back because I know he said he's gonna send a cruise out there. And well, back up. The gentleman told me that he saw a cruiser pass him. It's because I told him what the detective said. But I called him back, and he said to this day they won't tell me who towed that vehicle away from the side of the road over there in Buckeye. So then here it is. After that, 2 days later, say, "Oh, Mr. Robinson." Well, on the 20th, a day after the vehicle showed, "Mr. Robinson, we found your son's vehicle." It showed up 2 days later in the desert. So it's a lot of questions about that. The whole scenario. But yes, I always believe there's some type of cover up with everything, because once my investigator found the 11 additional miles, 46 initial cycles, the red transfer paint, he found that the damage on the vehicle didn't match the terrain. The impression, the two impressions on windshield. Somebody tried to beat the vehicle, beat it in. He knows that the damage on the driver's side. There was only one broken glass in that whole entire vehicle, and that was the driver's side. The glass is on the ground. You tell me anytime you've seen any accident where a vehicle windows broken out and the glass land in one little spot perfectly and to sit there instead of being scattered all over the place. That was suspicious by itself, and I don't really believe that glass came from that window, that door, for one thing. And then it was minimal to no glass inside the vehicle, so that explains that part as well. But it's so much more about, and the time of day when it comes to the infotainment system, that all of this stuff happens. So, long story short, I'm saying is, once they receive all this information from my investigator, which he had a hard time at first to give it to him, he wanted to go straight to FBI because he convinced that this was a crime scene. The Buckeye Department at the time refused to call it a crime scene. So reluctantly gave it to Detective Biffin, and then and then I'm telling you guys, they gave me an open door almost. Like I talked to Chief Hall, Detective Biffin. I can call them right now on the phone, for instance. It can be late, whatever time, and they talk to me, right? But once we gave them that information, they wouldn't talk to me for a whole month. Didn't talk to me. They came out a month later with their went and got their own private investigator, and everything. That private investigator, without even seeing Daniel's vehicle, never saw it, never touched it, never viewed it with his own eyes or anything, because I noticed because it was in my custody at the time. Made a full report on something he never seen, and everything he said on it was a contradiction to what my investigator found physically seeing the vehicle, from physical, right? And actually having the data. The man used third-party stuff, pictures and everything else to make a full report, and that's what the Buckeye Police Department hung their hat on. So what I took it as a cover-up. So they needed someone to be their yes man, for your sake. For when I say your sake, for the public's sake, the news reporters and everybody else, of course, they're going to always side with law enforcement, even when they're wrong. They'll side with them because law enforcement, when they say it, it must be true. Those type things. So that's the way the life has been approached. And I have to live this thing. I have to live it all the time. So I could, all thing would happen with me, it can be sounding like, oh, it's just a dad just upset with the law enforcement. And no, these are real things that happen on the ground, and I speak about it. I don't have no problem with law enforcement. I just have problems with laziness, corruption, those type things. Because trust me, I have a stepbrother who's a retired detective. I have a lot of other officers. I have a former Chicago police officer who works he's part of the A team, works on my foundation and all this kind of stuff. So I know a lot of information I get is from these type gentlemen who know how law enforcement really is supposed to work and how they're supposed to do things. And so, long story. So I have no problem with law enforcement. I have a problem with corruption and laziness and all this kind of stuff and feelings. Some people say that you're supposed to worry about with them. No, they need to do their job. I'm a military guy, retired. Nobody care about your feelings. You got to do your job. We went out there in Afghanistan worrying about each other's feelings. We're doing our job. So you just do your job. We have JC Adams. Thanks so much for the question. And I want to look real quick and make sure I'm not missing anybody on Instagram, because I meant to look up. If you have some on Instagram, please put the question back up again, because I wasn't looking up and I probably missed it. If you have, don't scroll up on me now, and I don't know how to get back down. But JC Adams off of YouTube, thanks so much for being here. Question: was the red paint on Daniel's vehicle ever analyzed to determine where it came from? No, it wasn't. I was speaking about this a while ago earlier. The Buckeye Police Department haven't done the job, so never got it done. The vehicle should have been in their custody to get it done. And like I said, the last report I've got from the Buckeye Police Department, they haven't done anything that they promised on April the 10th, 9th and 10th of 2025 last year. So that's where we stand on that one. Hey, how you doing, Keisha? Thanks so much for being here again. Thanks for moderating and all the work you did. And I'm telling you something about Keisha, you guys. She was there with me many days out there in the city search or city flyer distribution out there, putting thousands of flyers all across Phoenix. So yes, thanks so much to the hard summer days and the hot weather out there in the malls and things like that. So I really appreciate it. But anyway, the question to have, you recently communicated with the FBI? No, I have not. I have not. I had some people um, asking me that I probably should, while the Galtry family was receiving help from the Phoenix field office and things like that. Um, I I can't tell you. I kind of backed up off of that. I wanted to, and I backed off of it because I have really bad experience. You know, like I told you guys, when I went to the Phoenix field office, first of all, uh, that only happened because I requested for the FBI to come to Dane's case. I wrote a letter. First of all, I went to put a report into the FBI field office right there in Phoenix of my death threats I was having, and also the ransom that I was getting in Daniel's case, just like we see in the Galtry case, ransom. And they rejected it. I mean, they just told me they took a report, and because the Buckeye policeman, they say it's the Buckeye Police Department's case. Even somebody threatened my life, it's the Buckeye Police Department's case, and that's supposed to be investigating a missing person case. Somehow they cover me too, right? And they also, make a long story, the ransom part was irrelevant to them. And the only way the FBI can come in, they say, if Buckeye Police Department invite them in, right? So almost like vampires can't come in your house or something. And so, and so of course, I had them later to say, yeah, the Buckeye Police Department was like, yeah, we're gonna have. They sent me a notice that, hey, because I asked for the FBI through the Buckeye Police Department, and Chief Hall at the time agreed to request that, right, to get a case briefing with the FBI. So I'm very excited telling everybody, the public, in my family press conference. My attorney got involved with it too at the time. And so when he told me that, yes, he's going to ask for the field office to come in, to do a case review. She immediately wrote a letter. I had my attorney. She really immediately wrote a letter to Chief Hall requesting that she and I, or just me, to be a part of this case briefing because it's very important. He didn't reply back. So I got a little tight because I didn't have no trust in the Buckeye Police Department. She had a little more trust than I did. And so she said, no, David, just wait the weekend, get them a little time to respond. Them jokers did not respond that weekend. And this week, Detective Biffin called me. So, oh, yeah, we had, by the way, like almost a brief conversation. Yeah, by the way, we had the case briefing with the FBI. They say you, Mr. Robinson, doing such a great job on your own. We don't need to come in. That kind of thing, right? So it was devastating, really bad. I was telling the public this information. And it was embarrassing because I was there telling people, oh, yeah, I was cited FBI coming to Dane's case. And so I want to know who this so-called agent that they sent to do this case briefing with the Buckeye Police and what the Buckeye Police Department was telling them or showing them. Because at that point, everything, the Buckeye Police hadn't done anything. Everything we know about Dane's case was my own investigation, everything I've done myself. And my private investigator that I ended up hiring, right? And so what have they done? And so I wanted to see what they lied about, basically. Why the FBI felt like you, Mr. Robbins, done such a great job on your own. And so Mr. Farmer, the former police officer, friend of mine, he was able to find out the information to who the agent was. And so we did the field off. We called up there to get an appointment with this agent to talk about that. So the agent agreed and had to set up where we come up there to speak to him. But when I got there, they wouldn't even let us inside the building, right? They wouldn't let us inside the FBI building. To be honest with you, I was originally going up by myself, but I didn't feel comfortable going to the FBI by myself. So he came along with me. And so we both had to check in at their, they have a little security station. We had to check in there. The guy let them know that was there. And then they let us into a little side room where we were standing there waiting on him to get let in, I guess, into his office. But no, he came to that room with two armed people with him. And before I can even reach my hand out to say, hey, how you doing? I'm David Robinson. I said, hey, how you doing? I'm David. I couldn't get the R in my last name out before he started yelling at me. And the way he was going off on me, and the other guys, they look at theirs on that defensive thing. I thought me and Mr. Farmer was gonna get shot that day. Two black guys up in there with armed people yelling at you, right? Like I did something wrong just by coming to saying hello, basically. And so when I had that happen, that was right there, and they didn't let us in the building, saying that Buckeye Police Department did a great job and all the stuff that he had to say, and pretty much that's it, and had us to leave, and that was it. So that for me was enough to say the Phoenix Field Office FBI was glorified police officers. They're part of the blue mentality. They're part. I mean, it's no different from the Buckeye Police Department, and to me at that point. So no, I did not reach back out to them. That's that long way to say no. I did not go back because I feel that even with they had I think his last name was Akil or something, a black gentleman who took over the field office at one point. I reached out to him thinking that's going to help as well. Someone said, yeah, try it again. I tried with them again. Got his direct number from a friend of mine who met him at some event. And so I spoke to him for a brief second, and then I called back the same number. Some woman answered the phone, and I asked to speak to him. She said, you'll never speak to him again. And she was right, because from that point on, every time I called, they put me to some kind of switchboard or something. I never talked to them ever again. And so even went as far as the Justice Department. I had some lunch with the Attorney General before to talk about Dan's case and see if they can go into, peek the head in and that kind of stuff, make a long story. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, like I said, I don't have any confidence. I don't want to go too far on that part of it because I don't know how that, with the Justice Department, those kind of things that we discussed. But what I can say is that, I don't have any definite confidence in that Phoenix field office either. But I think, Keisha, you was telling me I should be pretty much communicating with the one in DC, and I still probably have that opportunity to do that. So thank you. I'm Zodiac. Thanks so much for another question. When Daniel left the well, okay, I'll try to read one thing off of Instagram, make sure I didn't miss anything. When Daniel, you asked a question, when Daniel left the well site, did he went right to go back into Sun Valley Park, Sun Valley main road, or left turn and went deep into the desert? I truly believe your son is somewhere in the desert. Well, according to Ken, I can tell you the orientation of that well. The well is north of the entrance point of where they would have came in that desert. And so they're going west. They was coming off of Sun Valley Parkway and going west. They went 1 mile west, 2 miles north to get to this well site. So once they're in the well site at 9 o'clock, according to Ken, he saw Daniel wave off, dropping at 9:15, wave drove off, and he started heading south on that same trail, going towards what is called a T-junction. So when you're coming in off of Sun Valley Parkway, you're coming in west, and then there's a trail that goes north. They call it a T-junction, because that trail, the first trail, still goes west out into the desert area, right? But that second trail comes in somewhere on that first trail, heading north. So Dan was coming south on that trail. Once he was waving off, he said going back south to get to that T-junction, where he should have been going left to get back to Sun Valley Parkway, because he's going south. Instead, he claims that he saw Daniel's tracks going, his tire tracks going east, right? I mean, going west out there. So he would have turned right to go farther into the desert. That's another story by itself, and I can go into that tonight, but I'm not about that tracks, so-called tracks on the ground. I did real live videos when I was out there in the desert to show you guys how ludicrous and how crazy that was. He talking about he could see the fresh tracks and all this crazy stuff he was talking. Following tracks and carrying on. There's a lot of tracks out there, but I digress on that one because it's long. It'll keep me on here for a while to break that down. And maybe next week, if I do this, I can show you some of the old videos I did when I was out in Arizona, in that Sonoran desert, where I could show you Ken's story in real time and how that don't make sense. And then I can show you how that real story take you exactly where, and this was before the vehicle showed up, tell you exactly what he told me would happen before we found the vehicle. But it can take you exactly where the vehicle would eventually be found. If you follow his story like I did, it would take you into that area. So that's a question by itself too, by the way. Um, so um, 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 but again, back to that. But yeah, it's the different direction what you put there. You put left. Left turn would take you back to Sun Valley Parkway. Right turn would take you further out into the desert in a way, but it don't really go that far because it goes a couple hundred feet to west, and then it starts going back south again. So when he said, "Oh, I just went left," telling people, "Oh yeah, he went west and went out into the desert, farther into that desert," that's a lie because that trail don't even go straight out west. It go a few hundred feet from that T junction, and then it starts curving back off to the south. So it goes south to the Hassayampa River down that way to where the vehicles found in those areas. So that's another thing. And I see a comment there, Keisha, so I'm going to put up there because I'll see no more questions. You said now would be a good time for Pima County being in the spotlight. You know, one thing that really bothered me about this whole thing was I seen the care, which it should be for families and it should be for the community. I seen the Pima County sheriff crying on TV for the Galtree family, right? Which rightfully so, because I even felt really horrible to even know that the lady is missing because you know I don't know how it is with a mother being gone, but I can only imagine. You know, so I only can imagine what the family is going through on that behalf because that is hard. That is really hard for them to be going through that. So, but when I saw him, the passion that he have of taking this case seriously, I have not seen that in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office with Sheriff Pinzon at the time. I mean, though Sheriff Pinzon gave me one of his rosaries and gave me his prayers, thoughts and prayers from his wife and him for finding Daniel. He did much more than what the Buckeye Police Department Chief Hall or Chief Sanders at the time or Biffin and the city managers and the city council members I was talking to at the time. He's the only one that actually shows a grain of care what happened in Daniel's case. The rest of them, when you talk to them, it's like stone face, like what you're doing here, get the heck out of our city, basically. And so I can give them that. But what I'm saying is, Pima County, yeah, a lot more passionate. It seemed like when it comes to caring somehow. So I've seen the man cry. I've seen the man crying on television. So I don't know if you're saying that's a good thing for me to try to reach out to Pima County, even though I have outside of that jurisdiction area where Daniel went missing. But I'm not sure. But what you're saying on this part, but good time with, it'd be a good time while the Pima County, I guess you're saying, with the FBI have a spotlight on it. Yeah, it probably would be. I kind of get your point on that. So I'm just reading you right now. I'm reading you, Keisha. I think I'm getting what you're saying. I'm sure you'll explain that to me later. But thank you, everyone. I think that's it. I don't see any more questions. So to backtrack again, I have on this coming Wednesday at 9:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Columbia, South Carolina, at the South Carolina State House, the Senate. We will have be able to bring Daniel Robinson Law Help Find Missing Americans Act, where I will be testifying for this bill, pushing this bill. We need families to help me. I don't want to be the only one there, even though it's, bears my son's name. I need all the families I can to help us see the urgency to this bill, right? And I'm gonna tell you the sad part about this whole thing. I have been trying to do the same thing in Arizona. I get the door slammed in my face. I met a gentleman, one of the senators. I'm not gonna put his name out there, in Arizona, and he told me at an event, a Miss American event, to come, reach out to. He gave me his card, reach out to him to push this Daniel Robinson Law. I was talking about it then, and he's really interested in it. But when I went to go do it, his assistants kept slamming the door in my face, to make a long story. And I have yet to be able to get in contact with him. Not throwing off on him because he could be a great guy. Now he seemed like a great guy. But what I'm saying is this country is so freaking polarized to sick, like really sick when it comes to simple things of missing Americans. It's not a partisan stuff, right? It's an American crisis, and so I think what happened was because my letterhead, my email has a Democratic candidate for South Carolina Congressional District 2 on it. Um, it's like that's what probably did it. You know, didn't want to talk to a Democrat or something. You know, that type deal. So it's really sick to me. It's crazy, right? This bill can help so many people, and the only thing you can have an issue with it is depending on what party you support or something. That's why I don't like this party stuff. But anyway, the thing is, Daniel Robinson Law is something I'm hoping that all of us can join in together. And if you have a missing loved one and you know this bill will help, because I do it in your state as well, pushing in every state we can. It's definitely I'm pushing it to the U.S. Congress. That's why I'm hoping I win. I'm going to win in November. I'm going to win on June 9th. And make this law something that helps, like I say again, families get better tools, and also law enforcement better tools to help find missing men. We need all the tools we can get. There's some other bills out there. There's another Daniel's Law, not Daniel Robinson Law, there's a Daniel's Law out there that can help. There's it's a couple of them I can't think off the hip just now, but it's a lot of them out there that can be utilized. We need all of them we can get to find missing Americans. 600,000 Americans every year is too many. One American, we have 280 here, South Carolina, that is currently missing, and it is too many people, right? So we need to try to get this bill passed, get it done, and help families, and all of that stuff. So I'm really asking you all, if you know anybody, you heard anybody who's in South Carolina, or if you can make it to South Carolina Wednesday, Wednesday at 9:00 p.m. Please join me to testify. Tell about your family, how this bill could have helped, and it could have helped, or still can help your family. Again, reach out to me at the number that you see on the bottom of the screen. I'll explain the bill to you, how it works, and you can say, hey, yes or not, how this bill could have helped or can help your family, even if you live in another state, because I'm pushing it there too. So, that helps. We get one state doing it, we get another state. Like I said, I'm going to Congress. We can also have an argument to push it in the U.S. Congress to make it federal as well. So, again, thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate your support. Please pray for me. I do a lot of stuff, and I didn't know running for office was going to take a lot of my time like this, but it does. But I am doing everything I can still fight for my son. So that fight is not over. My goal is, if I have my way, to be back in Arizona sometime this spring. Be back in Arizona to push law enforcement, because I'm telling you, and I say this to families all the time, and in the situation I'm doing, I'm so ingrained into helping as many families as I can. Now it's starting to seem like my son's case is being open for law enforcement to do what I think they can do, and that is to call the case cold. Because when they see a family seem like they're not there in their face, right? I mean, I say in their face, I can call all day like I do and send these letters and all the kind of stuff I do, but unless you right there in their face and knocking on their doors, they're not gonna budge. They're not gonna budge. I'm telling you, I won't say all of them, but the majority of them will not budge. It is easier for them to call it a cold case and move on to something else. But when you keep on putting heat and put a match to their behind, and make them have to cover their own butt, they'll start doing some work. So my goal is to, I have a midterm, like I said, a primary on June 9th, so I'm pushing really hard for that. But my goal is to have a week out in Arizona, to get in Detective Adams' face, to get in Chief Sanders' face, to get in wherever their new Maricopa County sheriff's person, get in their face, to turn Phoenix upside down again, to get Daniel's case back where it should be with them, to actually do some work. They got all his stuff, and I want the job to be done. So we, nobody can say, law enforcement cannot continue to say we have no new leads. When they tell you guys that if y'all still out there going to Daniel Ross, sending them the flyers out and talking to the Buckeye Police, making the phone calls or anything y'all do, and they'll tell you something like, "Oh yeah, we have no more leads to follow, or we still investigating, but we have no more leads to follow." You're not looking for any freaking leads. The leads are right there in the forensics. So if you're going to have to do the work, you want the leads, you want the new direction in the case, you want some new information, process the freaking stuff. Is what I'm saying. And so that's where your leads and your answers at. And that's again put me back in the corner. Say, is that some type of cover? They don't want to find in it. They don't want nothing to be proven or shown because they want to cover up something. We still to this day, for instance, don't know who the other young lady is. My son mentioned 2 women. When he spent the night with Caitlin, it was 2 women there that night. 2, not just Caitlin, 2. And who was the other female? My son didn't mention her name because he was all focused on telling me about Caitlin. This was before he went missing. I first heard that girl name, but he didn't mention other. I didn't stop saying, "Oh well, who's the other girl too?" I didn't. That was nothing for me to think about at the time. I wish I could have, but they hiding this person. They hiding her version of the story. They hiding that lets you know the poor investigating and talking about Buckeye Police did a good job. They have not done. I can point out. You guys see me. I did a whole podcast of the things they haven't done a good job at. I challenge anybody. I mean, I literally anybody, FBI, I don't care, whoever, anybody against what I got to say. If we have an open forum for you guys to hear, and they're gonna put their little piece where they felt Buckeye Police did, and I can tell you what they didn't do and what's real and what's not. I guarantee you, all day I can show you such a bad job the Buckeye Police will continue to do at that they have done and continue to do, right? Because they don't care about Daniel's case, right? It's all a facade to make them try to cover their own self to make them look good in certain aspects. But what I'm saying is, I just could go on all night because when I get to this point, I start talking a lot more. Let's end on for another hour, talk about some stuff. But anyway, again, I'm just going to be out there in Arizona and try to push them to get more leads. And some more work and get them to get their work done. So thanks so much, everybody. I appreciate it. And thanks so much, Living Dead Girl. Excuse me, everyone. Excuse me, everybody. Living Dead Girl, thanks so much. Yes, thanks for having me in your prayers and the family. I really appreciate you too. Thank you again, everybody. Take care of yourself. And it is, so the cell phone ping is very important. So thank you, everybody, again. Wednesday at 9:00 p.m. I need your help. Thanks so much. Have a good night.